all right? Here we're out of the recession. Other places may have it. Some have a lot of it yet. Some have a little bit of it yet. I think what's really happening is we are going from what I call an old economy into a newer economy. And when you do that, it's a process that's sloppy, and basically it slows everything down, and it's a bit choppy. So what do I mean by that? If you go back and you look, we have recessions about every 8 years. They last about 18 months, and then everything comes back and life is wonderful. So we know that one thing that hit us was this recession was pretty deep, and it's lasted a lot longer. But what's really happening is about every 50 years you have what's called economic revolutions, and they change the way people live, the way they work, the way that they basically communicate. So let's go back. We're a country of about 400 million people. We have been in existence not a long time, but we've had a few economic revolutions. The first one probably was the railroad, because it connected the country and brought everybody together. We had people that moved from farms into the city. We had basically the development of the mass assembly line, which raised the middle class. And about 50 some odd years ago, something clunky and unusual came out called the internet. And you know you hated it, you didn't like it, nobody wanted to use it, nobody could figure out how to make any money with it. But over the last 50 years, kicking and screaming, everybody's come. They found out how to make a hell of a lot of money with it, and now you all are addicted to it. It's not just something that you like, it's something that absolutely is connected to you. When you go into cardiac arrest, if you use your phone or you can't get to those appliances. So that's the revolution that's occurring. Now what does that mean? It means that technology now is not just part of the economy, it drives and is the economy. And here's what technology has done. It's made things more efficient, more productive, on real time. You don't need as many people. People have to have different skills. That's a tremendous change from where we were. So we're going through that process. So what's the process? Well, we started in the year 2000. That's when we had the tech blow up, because they threw everything against the wall and only some of them survived. So you have all the big anchor companies now, the Googles, the Facebooks, the LinkedIn, the Salesforce.com, the Oracles, the HP, SoftBank, Alibaba, the list goes on and on. Those are the anchors now for the new technology. And just to tell you how powerful they are, they're sitting with about $4 trillion in cash in Silicon Valley. That's why you have the economy you have, and that's why you have the real estate market you have, and that's why people can afford all these ridiculous prices that people say we have out here, basically in the San Francisco Bay Area. So now you have the anchor companies. They've spent the last 10 years building all the appliances and software that basically drives all of their businesses. And now we're in what we call the disruptive phase. Now what's the disruptive phase? An Uber that's taking over the taxi cab industry, an Airbnb that's taking over the rental industry. And if you read the paper today, and people say to me all the time when I do radio shows and interviews, well, you know, this is great and all this stuff that's coming out, but we're there, it's done now. What else could they possibly do? Well, this morning, if you read the paper, Uber is starting a whole group of taxi cars in Pittsburgh that will be driverless. They're going to start that model. It's out, it's coming, and it's there. So that's the next step. You have artificial intelligence with people with the Googles now that are doing everything. And I gave you something in your handout you're going to get that shows you there's a company now in San Jose that will go out and take a picture, let's say, of a property that you have, do it in 3D, and you know what? Your client doesn't even have to come to that open house, because you're going to give them a pair of Googles that are cardboard with your logo and name on it, and they can be in the bathtub, in bed having sex, doing whatever they want. And also viewing your open houses. So at the end of the day, you begin to understand what I'm talking about. Let's talk about Pokemon Go, okay? That's augmented reality. Now, we all know what that is. That thing, when it hit, obviously, 65% of everybody on the internet was playing that game. Now, you know there's no free lunch, okay? So they tell you it's a free game. Pokemon's been around forever. There's 700 characters. The hook that they got you with was now you're going to walk. So you think, oh God, this is going to be great. I'm going to be healthy and get to play games. I call it population control, because everybody's playing it and they hit trees and they're getting run over. So I guess there's one sentence to it. All right, so you go to a designated site, and that's how you play the game, because if you're not at a designated site, you can't connect. Now, how do they make money? Because it's owned half by Nintendo and half by Google under a company called Niantic. So you have to buy tools in order to destroy these characters if you really want to get up there and be king of the Pokemon Go group, okay? Now, on the other side, let me tell you what they're doing. Restaurants, real estate company, people holding open houses, they're going into the Google side and they're buying destination sites so they can basically get people to come. Are you beginning to get the message? So every day from Sunday, they're figuring out ways to make money on the internet, and basically we're just starting with where we're going to go.
Yes.
So now, when you look at that, you can begin to understand how valuable it's going to become and the kind of wealth that's going to be created. But we go through a choppy phase to begin with, and that's the change that you're seeing now. So now, where's the national economy going to be? Probably at about 2.3%. I think that the stock market's going to end right where it is now, which is where it started last year, so not anything great, positive, but okay. Gold's gone from 1,100 to 1,300 because people get frightened when they have these terrorist attacks and everybody runs and buys gold. There is no inflation in the world, maybe here, but not in the world. And that's usually why people buy gold, so they're just buying it out of fear. Let's talk for a minute about oil. Oil, all you need to think about is Saudi Arabia. That's it. They run oil, they run OPEC, they set the price of oil. Last July, oil was at $107 a barrel. And Saudi Arabia liked the money, but they didn't like everybody who got in the oil business at $107 a barrel. So they decided that, guess what? You're getting out, we're staying in. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to lower the price. We don't care if it's 50 bucks, 40 bucks, 30 bucks, 20 bucks. We can go down to 10 bucks. We don't care, all right? And guess what? You, Mr. Fracking companies, you all these little places that are in the oil business, you're going bankrupt. That's the way it is, and that's exactly what happened. And the minute that happened, you notice oil came back up, and today, this morning, it's $48 a barrel. So at the end of the day, Saudi Arabia, okay? Now, let me talk a little bit about interest rates, because you're interested in that, I know. Mrs. Yellen raised interest rates last year, okay? She thought she could, she did it. She was absolutely convinced that she was going to come into 2016 and be able to raise interest rates. Now let me tell you how terrible that hit was. 0.25%, which on a $250,000 loan is $36 a month. Now look guys, we're living in an area where the average home is about $700,000. If you're dealing with somebody who cannot basically afford an extra 36 bucks, one, they can stop drinking Starbucks coffee. That'll pay the bills. Or two, I got two places for you to send them. Send them to Fargo, North Dakota, or Weatherford, Texas. Believe me, there they will not have that problem, okay? So at the end of the day, now, here's her issue. One, she can't muck this housing market because it's the one bright spot out there holding this economy together. So it's going to be very hard for her to raise interest rates. We are a country living with $22 trillion of debt. When you have that kind of debt, you need to pay interest on the debt. You can't have too high interest because you're going to go broke, all right? The whole world is leveraged. Everybody's living on borrowed money, and people keep saying to me, but Carol, this can't go on forever. Yeah, it can, as long as everybody moves in line, and you know what's going to happen. When you have a debt like that, either three things happen. You get smart, you start to stop spending money. Well, that's not going to happen in this country, you know that. Basically, you revalue the currency of the dollar. Not going to happen because it's an international currency and it would affect the world. Or everybody plays the game, right? Eventually you hit the wall. We'll all be dead, so nobody will care. So you got to So that's exactly one of her problems. The other problem that she has some of these industries not doing well, some of the economy doing great, so she has to be very careful to balance. But here's one of the biggest ones that she has, and that brings me to Europe, because that's the next big hit that we had, was this Brexit, which you know about that happened. Now let's go back. The European Common Union was established about 20 years ago. And it was established because there's a lot of small countries in Europe and they couldn't compete against the other big countries economically. So they figured if we all get together, we're going to be a powerhouse, and they are, the second largest economy in the world. And so they issued common passports so they can move between countries very easily. They have common work permits, and every single contract that they have in trade with every other country around the world is written under the European Common Union with tariffs and rates. Life was wonderful. It made everything great. Well, here's what happened. Over the last 10 years, they've gone from being an economic entity with their headquarters in Brussels to starting to get too political and a little bit too social. And so, for example, if you are in a country and there is somebody who breaks the law, you don't have to go to trial against that country's laws. You now have to go to an international court under the European Common Union, and they're going to tell you whether you're guilty or not. People don't like that. Oh, gee, we have an immigration problem over there because they're taking all these people in and they're telling each country how many you have to take in and what kind of benefits they have to get. And people that live in these countries don't like that, all right? Then there's a second problem. When you look at the European Common Union, there's 27 members that belong, but only 17 of them use the euro. Now, if you go back a couple of years, you might remember that the dollar went down 1/3 in value, and everybody said, oh, the crappy dollar, who wants that dollar? America's gone, they don't know what the hell they're doing over there anyway. We should make the euro the international currency. And at one time, the euro was absolutely very high against the dollar. So now, here's the problem. They went into a recession like we did, but we got a cold, they got pneumonia. They are still in a recession over there. And also, here's their problem. They're all connected on a chain, right? See, we're the United States of America, and one state is connected to the other. But here's the difference. These are countries that think differently, they have different governments, they want different things. In the United States of America, we move under common laws with a common currency, etc. Now, you have some strong countries in the European Common Union. You have the United Kingdom, you have France, you have Germany. You got a lot of really bad countries in that thing that basically owe money from here to wherever. So you've got Greece, you've got Italy, Spain, Portugal, and Ireland. Now, Greece is never going to pay back their money, and they have been giving them money now for the 4th time, trying to get them to get out of the hole they're in, and it'll never happen. So here's the issue now and the problem. When the European Common Unions formed, they gave each country every so often the right to vote as to whether they want to stay in or pull out, right? So this year, it was the United Kingdom's turn to vote. Now that's England, Scotland, Ireland, and all the Commonwealth nations under the Queen. Nobody thought they would vote to go out. Nobody did. So there's no plan, right? We're going to stay in, life goes on. The vote was 52% to 48%. Very close, very divided. Caused a riot over there. So the Prime Minister resigns. He says, I'm not the right person to bring this forward because I was voting to keep it in. They basically, within 2 days, get another Prime Minister, this woman named Theresa May, who they call her the Steel Lady because she's tough. She set up a committee, but here's the problem. Our stock market went down 600 points the day that happened, but for us, it's just an event. It's no big deal. It's an event. But for them, this is an economic catastrophe for them. Now, let's explain why. I just got off a plane from Barcelona, Spain 2 days ago, all right? My luck, I come into New York, right? When I come into New York, they think somebody is shooting a gun in the John F. Kennedy terminal, and they closed it down for 7 hours. So my 12-hour flight took 19 hours while I'm waiting outside, and they won't let you in while they're searching the whole airport. Is life not terrific? It's great, right? So at the end of the day, in England, when I was there, and in London, real estate has gone down between 20 and 50%. You cannot sell anything right now. If you are in a REIT there, a real estate investment trust, they will not give you your money or let you take your money out. There was a penthouse when I was there next to the hotel I was staying at that the year before when I was there basically was for sale and sold for $114 million. When I was there last week, it was on sale for $70 million and no buyers at all. They don't understand the value of anything. They don't know what's going to happen. Now, on the other side, listen to what's happening to people that are coming in to invest. Wells Fargo, which has 800 people working just in London, all over in different places, just bought an office building so they could put everybody together. They paid 50% less for that office building than they would have paid 1 month ago. Is that not amazing? Now, the enormity of the task, every person needs a new passport. Every person that works there needs a new work visa. Every single trade agreement they have with every country around the world is now null and void, and they have to go country by country and to start to set up their new contracts. Now, how come it sort of calmed down? Because they went to the European Common Union and said, look, you can do this easy or hard. Because see, there's something called Article 50 in the Charter that says once you decide to leave, you got 2 years to get out or we're going to penalize you. And they said, look, you can live with that and mandate it. We're never going to make it. You got to give us some time. So they're going to give them to 2019 in order to get out. But it's a mess for them. I guarantee you, and this is my prediction, and you know when I make predictions, I always say this. If I'm right, I was a genius, and if I'm wrong, I was on a lot of medication. So there you go, you know I'm going to go right. So at the end of the day, I think England, I think the United Kingdom will be going into another recession. I just don't see how they can avoid that. Now, let's talk about the problem for the European Common Union, because do they have a problem? Sure they do. They just lost a very good player that can afford to write checks to help these other countries. What if a France or a Germany leaves? Now what happens over there? Do you begin to understand the mess that they're in? This was a great idea, but once they started to get political and social, it didn't work, all right? So that's sort of where we are on a kind of global basis. We obviously have the terrorist groups, you know that. I don't know what to say about that. Those people don't like us. They don't like each other. I don't know how you do what you do with those people because they're living in the 13th century and they don't get it. Now, the next thing that's going to hit you, and of course you've heard this already ad nauseum, is the election we have coming. Now, you do know that nobody's running for president. You do know so it's not a big deal. And don't let it bother you because we've had people with Alzheimer's, we've had drunks, we've had womanizers. We will get past this. Now, here's the thing that's been important about this year. Nothing you expected this year has come true. If you had said, and if I had said to you a year ago, that Mrs. Clinton wouldn't have a coronation and would not be the nominee of the Democratic Party easily, and that it would take a 72-year-old senator that no one ever heard of anyway, from Vermont, who was basically went to Moscow and never came home, right? And that she would have to spend $400 million to get him to sit down and shut up. You would have said I was on marijuana. I know. If I had said to you that out of 17 candidates, of which there were senators and governors, etc., that a gentleman who was a real estate developer, basically, would become the nominee of the Republican Party, you would have said I went from marijuana to cocaine. Right? And yet, those are your two choices. Oh my God. So now we have the Kim Kardashian presidency this year, so sit back, it's going to be very entertaining, and enjoy it. They can only do so much harm. Believe me, we will survive. But it's going to be very interesting. They're an amazing two people, an amazing two groups. All right. I think what you do is you go and you vote, because it's a privilege. You should do that. Vote for the one you dislike the least that day. Like either one of them should be president. I think they're both two idiots, but at the end of the day, what can I say? Mrs. Clinton keeps trying to justify what she did and didn't do, and she said she short-circuited. I don't know what the hell that means. What do you mean when you short-circuited? And Mr. Trump keeps opening his mouth and insulting people, and you know what? I don't mean to be unkind if there's a real estate developer in this room, but they are all that way. They are empty in the brain level, okay? That's the way it is. All right, so at the end of the day, that's the way it works, all right?
Agreed.
Now, that's sort of the national and the global picture. Now,